What's up? This is Aaron Matz from 1056, and you are watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 242 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with a good friend, originally from England, now living in Paris, France. My good friend Aaron Matz from 1056. How you doing today, man?
What's up, man? Well, today it's 1 a.m. here. I am doing all right. Just about to get into bed, put all my jewelry on for the interview. and shit. Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Doing
It's
good.
all good. I just got home from work not too long ago, and I'm glad to be able to have you on. So, kind of what I want to talk about is your musical history and sort of talk about like all your stuff from 1056, Betraying the Martyrs, all that stuff. So, take me back to young Aaron Matt. So, kind of growing up, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to be a vocalist?
Jesus. I mean, I've said this like in pretty much every interview I've done, but I'd just like repeating it. I got into like violent music through a song called Kim by Eminem. That just what like when I heard that song made me realize that I like the darker side of music. And then my brother gave me a Slipknot CD, like a one that was burned onto a CD, and I really enjoyed that. But then like later on, it would be, I mean, Bring Me the Horizon came out with their EP. Can't remember what it's called.
This is what the edge of your seat was made for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think like someone had sent me like, or I saw a song, not on MySpace, but on something even shitter like Vampire Freaks or something like that.
Wow.
It's like a emo site, whatever. And then yeah, that just kind of opened the door. And then I got into Job for a Cowboy. Whitechapel, Suicide Silence, Mitch Lucker was a huge one for me. And I think like the charisma that Mitch Lucker had, that was like a big mind blower for me. That was like he was the guy that made me be like, oh, I want to be like him.
Yeah, because I remember seeing Suicide Silence with Mitch back in 2011 when I was like 17. I even got to meet him, and he was a really nice dude, and I definitely have respect for him as a vocalist and musician.
Yeah, fuck. Yeah, I think I saw them when I was 17 too, but I don't know, it must have been like 2008 maybe, something like that. And I was just like, whoa. And then obviously to tour with them later on and become friends with the guys, just like, yeah, that was a big moment for me.
All right. And of course, a lot of people know you from Betraying the Martyrs and obviously 1056. Like, what was your bands even before you joined up with BTM?
I had one local band. It was called For Untold Reasons, and then we shortened it to Reasons just before I left the band, and then we split up. And we supported BTM with their first singer in the UK, and that's how as in BTM got hooked up, and that's how they kind of like took me from that band in a sense.
All right. All right. And what was it like joining Betraying the Martyrs? Because I believe you joined in 2010.
Yeah, something like that. It was crazy because it I needed to move country to do it. So I was working in like a sign company. I was doing welding and electrical work, building like illuminated signs and doing some other welding work on the side, just in a factory. And uh, and then a couple of days later, I was like, shit, I've got to move to France. So it was quite the experience. It wasn't like a really easy move. It felt easy at the time because I was just like following what I wanted to do. But now I think back on it, it was really difficult because I didn't speak a word of French or anything. So
Yeah. And then of course you joined, and then of course you got signed to Sumerian Records. So how did they find Betraying the Martyrs?
I actually don't. I think we remember Ash Avildsen, the founder of Sumerian, had like reposted a song called "Because of You," which was one of the singles before the album was out, and he had like reposted it saying something nice about it, and we were like, "Holy shit!" And so Baptiste, he was like a really Christian member of the band. He still is really Christian, and he like sent an email. He found their emails and like sent an email and like prayed all night and shit. And then they just replied back like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then we got signed. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not a Christian guy myself, but I was just like, on that day, I was like, "Oh, hallelujah!"
So tell me about making that first album, Breathe in Life. I thought that was like in my opinion, one of the most underrated like debut albums albums in like the whole deathcore metalcore genre. So what was the thought process going into making the debut Betraying the Martyrs album?
Well, I mean, the thing is, like when you join a band that's already kind of going in a certain direction, you just kind of have to adapt. But I definitely brought like their old vocalist didn't have the kind of style that I had, and before that, I didn't really have a great deal of recording experience. You know, more just amateur stuff. And well, it was actually very amateur the way that we did it. Luca, who's in the band, who was in the band at the time, his dad is actually an artist, and he has like a studio, so we was able to like record in there. And yeah, it was just, I mean, it was crazy for me because I'd never like recorded for more than a day and never recorded more than, 5 song EP or whatever. So yeah, it was just like trial and error, and we just kind of put down whatever came first. And I was writing lyrics in my bedroom in the morning, then I would go and record all day. It was just like, it wasn't serious because we didn't have a record label or you know what I mean? There was no pressure behind it. We were just doing it. And I think that's how most of the best albums come about, when the band's just writing because that's what they want to do, not because they have to meet a deadline or whatever.
Yeah, it has like that debut charm.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then like, yeah, I think in my opinion, like we got swept up
Yeah,
touring. We toured with like so many bands off that first album, and it was in that like tech era, and we were touring with like Born of Osiris and stuff. And it's
yeah,
really easy when you're an artist to get swept up in, like getting unconsciously uh influenced like very deeply by the bands that you're surrounded with. And I think that we were touring with Born of Osiris, we were like,
yeah.
whoa,
The
and
homies.
yeah, the homies, yeah, and we were all touring with like Veil of Mayo, and that stuff was all going down. So I feel like, in a sense, like we wanted to kind of recreate some of that, what was going on at that time, and that was a really bad approach, and
Yeah,
definitely taught me a big lesson going forward.
yeah. And didn't you like tour the US for the first time during that cycle? And what was that whole experience like visiting America?
It was crazy. It was actually our first professionally booked tour ever was in the States. Um, yeah, like Sumerian, I guess they just put us on with Born of Osiris, and Carnifex was on there too, Structures, and I want to say someone else, but maybe not. I think Veil of Mayo might have been on it too, actually.
Hell of a
Yeah,
bill.
yeah, they were. Yeah, it was crazy, but it was stacked as fuck. That was crazy, but the crazy thing about that is that we didn't have a trailer, right? So like these normal, I don't know what you call them, 15-seater like bands that everyone tours in over there, um, like normally you have a trailer, but we had, I guess we couldn't afford it or whatever, so we had to take 2 or 3 of the benches out and push all our gear in, and then, like 3 of us, we had 3 people per bench, and we just slept sitting it up like that on each other with like merch grills going over our heads and stuff.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was in the winter. I was like, I tried to sleep on the floor once, and I woke up, and when I had hair, my hair was like frozen to the door from the inside. You know,
Holy shit.
yeah, it was a really grueling experience. But when you're 21 years old, you're not even thinking about it. We were just like stoked as fuck.
Yeah. But then going into the next album, Phantom, I loved the album. It was actually my introduction to Betraying the Martyrs. And this year does mark the 10-year anniversary of Phantom. So what was sort of like the memories working with on Phantom, and was some of the best highlights for that cycle?
What I remember most about that one is just we were under a lot of pressure to deliver an album, and we were also like had a very crazy touring schedule at that point. We were doing so many tours, and we weren't home a lot at all. And I think we were writing on the road, and we tracked the vocals in like 3 or 4 different studios. So it was really like hectic time, and I didn't really think that we should have taken the time off of touring to write that album, but we didn't have, the wits about us at that point. But I think, yeah, one of the best memories was we got back from Mexico. We did this tour with Chelsea Grin and Attila, the Sick tour too, I think it was. And then we went to straight to Mexico, and then we came straight up and we recorded like most of the vocals in Santa Monica with a guy who had worked on a Katy Perry record or something. That was super random, but yeah, that was nice just to chill out in Santa Monica. And we actually stayed with Gus and Diego from Volumes. Rest in peace,
Yeah.
Diego, in Woodland Hills because their parents have a big house and stuff. So yeah, it was a nice period, man.
Yeah, especially loved your cover of Let It Go from Frozen. That was pretty much my introduction, funny enough, to Betraying the Martyrs, and then I discovered the other stuff. And I also love When Legends Die, which of course I heard Mitch Lucker was supposed to have done like vocals on that because I've actually interviewed Baptiste before and he told me about the whole story because he was originally was slated, but I think it was the song was like dedicated to him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely was. I mean, Let It Go, as embarrassed I am to have done that song now. I mean, it did introduce a lot of people to the band, you know. So, I mean, that's not a thing that I'm proud of or happy that I was a part of, you know. But I mean, I guess it put a smile on a lot of people's faces, and I saw videos of like lots of children like dancing to it and stuff. So, I mean, nothing negative you can say about that. And yeah, the Mitch thing, I was actually going back and forth with Mitch on, I think it was Halloween, maybe Halloween night or the night before about it. And then he passed away on Halloween night. Yeah, so we just decided to dedicate that song to him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really powerful song.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I really like a lot of the songs on that record. I feel like the production, uh, we had like a really strange approach to the production and stuff, and that made some of the songs not stand out as much as they maybe could have.
Yeah. And then going into the Resilient, I thought that was a pretty good album. So what was that like from going from Phantom to the Resilient?
We had like we weren't personally satisfied with Phantom, and you know how we kind of threw it all together, kind of last minute. So that was like our album where we had learned from our mistakes, and we where did we go? We went with James Hill, who used to play in a band called Sixth, and we wrote the record. We already had some stuff done, but we went and like did the whole record in a studio and like got a like cabin in the woods kind of style thing where we just kind of immersed ourselves in the writing process and you know put out an album like that. And I think I really like that album, and I think that if that album had preceded Phantom, I mean, if it came out just after Breathing Life, I think the trajectory, sorry, it's late, of the band would have gone like in a different way, in a more positive manner.
Yeah. And I remember the only time I saw Betraying the Martyrs was on that cycle you played the Summer Slaughter tour with Black Dahlia Murder, Dying Fetus, a bunch of other
Yeah,
bands. That was like the only time I ever saw you guys you played at the Masquerade in Atlanta.
the Masquerade, was that the old one or the new one?
That was the new one. And I remember, bro, I was actually friends with you for a while on Facebook. And I remember in between bands, I was like chilling outside and you actually walked up to me. You're like, hey, you're Richard Thompson from Facebook. And
Yeah,
you said you liked my posts about metal, which I thought was fucking awesome.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that tour was great. I mean, that was one of my favorite tours ever. We made so many friends on that run. I mean, we had Lorna Shaw was on there.
Yeah. Now they're
Uh,
fucking
Brad.
popular.
Oh yeah, they're really fucking popular, and they deserve it too. So who else? I mean, yeah, it was just like a big bro tour. You know, there were so many bros, and you know, the guys from Angel Maker, we became really close with them. The guys from Oceana, pretty much just everyone on tour was just like a really cool guy. It was great.
Nice. And then your last album with the band Rapture, I thought that was a really underrated album. So what was that like? Because I know that was of course, obviously now the band's final album.
Yeah, we did the same kind of thing going into that. We got like a when it kind of like a barn, like a transformed barn, like with a studio that we kind of like put up in there. And yeah, that was a similar experience. I think we was out there for like a week at a time, and we just wrote the album out there. And yeah, pretty much the same kind of experience as uh as the Resilient album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have much memories from that time. I was drinking a lot at that point. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, not a lot of, but I mean the approach was the same. And yeah, I think some of the songs I actually had to listen to. I did like the whole discography because the band did their farewell show and I did a few songs with them and stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't know which ones I was going to do, so I was like, "Fuck it, I'll just listen to everything back." And I was like, "Damn, there's a
Yeah.
lot of really good songs on there."
Yeah.
Incarcerated being probably my favorite, uh, or Rapture is a great song.
Yeah. But how hard was it to leave Betraying the Martyrs since you were in the band for so long?
Oh, sorry, dude, my bad. That honestly, it was really difficult. It was like a stupid. I was like torn between like obviously having some good friends in the band, and I didn't want to leave because of them, but also like this stupid, weird ego battle that I was having with myself at the time where I didn't have any plans. I mean, I was planning to kind of exit the band for quite some time before I actually did. And even before I did 1056. And yeah, I was having this weird ego battle where I had to kind of come to the terms with like getting a normal job and like, I mean, it sounds really like a douchey thing to say, but like becoming like a normal guy and like being coming off the touring circuit. And yeah, I was just thinking like really negatively about it and sticking around for the wrong reasons, I think, for a long time.
Yeah. And did you take a little break before you started up 1056, or did you just go right into the band after leaving
Dude,
BTM?
it's crazy that we're talking about this today because I saw on my Facebook memories that I announced my departure from BTM 3 years ago on this exact day. And
Wow.
and I announced 1056 on that day as well. So I left the band and then like an hour later did an announcement that I was doing another one called 1056. So they just I literally spent 1 hour like not being in a band, I guess.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, but,
Yeah.
but did you have like 1056 like already like in the works even before you left Betraying the Martyrs?
Yeah, yeah. I was like starting it as not a side project. It was like a passion project. Like I wasn't getting the creative freedom in a sense and like the musical satisfaction, as it were, from BTM. And I'd felt like that. I felt that way for a very long time, actually, because it wasn't really like my band. I didn't, I wasn't like a founding member or whatever, and it's just something that stuck. Um, yeah, and so it was like had this passion project, and I was working on BTM's album that never came out. Some of the songs they redid, um, but we was working on those songs, and I was also working on 1056 at the same time. I was like sneaking in some like vocal takes, during the BTM sessions when we had some downtime, and I'd find myself listening to the 1056 songs like 20, 30 times a day and not paying attention at all to what I was doing with BTM. And yeah, I was just like, that's just speaking volumes. I was just like, well, I'm obviously so much more intrigued and like passionate about this new thing, and like really disconnected from Train the Martyrs. I
Yeah.
just yeah. Mm.
Yeah. But starting up with 1056. So how'd you get to know like the members like Arnaud, Luca, Quentin, and Steve's?
So Luca is okay. Well, the drummer Arno, he's the guy that I started the band with. He put out a post saying on Instagram like, I'm looking for guys to do a jazz band with, and I replied to him like, let's just do a crazy heavy band, and he was like, okay, and that's literally how it started. Um, Luca, who joined next? Quentin joined next. Quentin and Arno, I kind of known to a similar capacity, just guys on the scene. They were in like tech gent bands or whatever, if you can call it that. They were playing in progressive metal bands, Uneven Structure and Kid Ginger. And yeah, I kind of known them, a similar amount. Arno was actually like the music video that we did for Parasite with BTM, there's like a big creature in it, a black creature, and Arno actually played that creature, but I didn't really know him at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were like more acquaintances or whatever. And I was working in a bar at that time, and Quentin was like a customer that I also kind of knew from the music scene. So I kind of asked. I knew he's an incredible guitarist. You know, you can't tell because he plays 1056 riffs, but he's insane. I was just like, "Do you want to join this thing that we're doing with Arno?" And he said yes. Steve uh, is was in BTM, so I just kind of plucked him from BTM, and he was really happy to join. And Luca, I met him when he was 13 years old. When I did my first ever show with BTM, he was there as like a spectator.
Wow.
Uh, Yeah, he was 13. I was like 20 or 21, and he came out and like watched the show. We played in like a gym in the northwest of France, and he was there, and he was just like, "Yo," but he was like a kid. You know what I mean? Obviously, I don't see him like that now, but that's how I met him.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
tell me about like making the first out your first debut album down there, which is just basically like the two EPs, part one and two combined together. So what was like the thought process going into making the debut 1056 album?
So Diazepam, me, Arno, and Quentin just kind of like threw a skeleton together of that song, and it sounded good, but it didn't have that beef to it, you know. And Quentin actually like ended up sending it to Luca, who wasn't yet in the band, and we didn't really know anything about him. Uh, and he like ended up re-recording it and like pimping it with all these crazy industrial sounds and stuff, and then sent it back. And Quentin like pretended that he did it, and we were like, "This is mental." And he was like, "Well, it wasn't me; it was Luca." So, and we were like, "Okay, he's in the band." And so we had Diazepam written, and that was the only song that we had. So we went in to do a music video for that one. And during that period, like Luca wrote "Boy," and then me and like Luca just kind of got this dynamic where we work together on songs together. Just he'll work on the instrumental based from like an emotion that I want to portray or whatever, and then we'd stick the lyrics on, and then we'd just put it out. That's literally how it worked. We did like Diazepam, filmed a video, put it out, wrote Boy, did the video, put it out, and just kind of went like that.
Yeah.
We didn't really have like a big bank of songs. We just
Yeah.
kind of put it out.
Yeah. Yeah, but but what's sort of like the different mind frame with 1056 as opposed to BTM? Is there any like differences or similarities between the two, and how different of like a mindset was it with this new band?
Well, the difference is, I mean, it's not like a negative or neither side has like is superior, I'd say. But in BTM, there was six of us, and there was like six different musical tastes, and there was always like one person that wanted to put their touch, into the song. So it was like six people kind of not fighting, but like pushing to have their little touch on the songs, and the songs maybe took a hit from that just for having like too many fingers in the pie. Whereas in 1056, just me and Luca will write the songs, and the other guys are just so proactive in like other aspects of the band that it just works like that. Like Arno, our drummer, he just puts so much time into like logistics and like managing things in the band and stuff. And Quentin like builds and does our live sessions and all our live work, and Steve just everyone just has their bit to do, and it just works like that. And the fact that, like I was saying before, there's not too many fingers in the pie. There's just everyone's on the same wavelength. We all love the music that we write, and no one's ever like, I want to change this or I want to do that, or let me put a bass solo in here because people don't hear me enough. It's just not like that in this band, and yeah, everything just works so smoothly.
Yeah. And so what is it with like with 1056? Well, how is it like starting over in like a new band and having like a fresh perspective? Because I know right from the get-go, you guys have pretty much grown really popular since the announcement and then the music and stuff.
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Like, so was sort of like because being 1056 six is sort of like a new band, like fairly new band. Was it like sort of like starting over in a new band and having a fresh perspective versus being in like an established band? Because when I saw you, when I heard about you guys, and then I seen that you guys are starting to like pop off and play like festivals like Aftershock and Louder Than Life, I was like, damn, you guys are rising up quickly. So how does that feel like to be in like a new band?
Well, it was like a huge relief. I mean, if I like, I originally wanted to start 1056 because I felt that like my musical taste and like my I hadn't reached my full potential and I hadn't had enough artistic input into the music. And I just kind of wanted to kind of bow out, like showing people, this is what I actually really like, and this is what I've been wanting to do this whole time. And and then it just turned into like a whole thing, and I realized that it's a lot bigger than that. Everyone's so invested into making it a success, and it was a huge relief when it became a success because it could have just been a big flop and like a little shitty ego parade or whatever, but it just turned out to be really great. And yeah, I had this dated perspective on what being in a band was about, and like I mentioned before, with the writing process and stuff, everyone in this band is just has a much more open open-minded approach to not only just to writing, but how to like put out music and how to interact with each other. And it's just completely different. It was like the landscape of music has changed so much in that time. And yeah, it's just yeah, completely different experience. Really
Yeah.
pleasant.
Yeah, and what was it like touring with 1056 for the first time? Were you like nervous at all?
Yeah, yeah, I was actually. Yeah, our first show was like a sold out show in Paris. Landmarks took us out. A band called Landmarks. I mean, I'm sure you know who they are.
Yeah,
They're
I've
really
heard the
big now.
name.
Yeah, I mean they're getting really big now. They were kind enough just to put us on a tour. Like I don't, I think we'd released one song, and by the time that they decided just to put us on their tour with Resolved and who else was it? Glassbone, and yeah, so we just like went out on the road, and Landmarks were just starting to really like blow up. So we were playing like this sold out tour, and it was just like great. Everyone on the tour, everyone on the package is just so nice, and everyone's getting along so well. And then it just kind of never stopped.
Yeah.
We just get on so well, and it's just a pleasure touring. That like I used to come back home from tours and be like, oh, finally. But now I just get home and I'm fucking depressed as fuck.
Yeah, but tell me about like playing the shows in the US because I know you did like that first US tour with 1056 with Attila. So how does like American crowds differ from like crowds over in Europe?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think there's more similarities between the crowds now. I mean, Americans are a lot more like woo, but that is because we toured with Attila, so that's obviously a factor. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, both crowds are different. I think Europeans are like more into doing huge walls of deaths, and like they have a tendency to like participate a little bit more, maybe. But who knows? I mean, like the last tour we did with Attila was great, and we had some festival appearances where we, like you said, with Aftershock and Louder Than Life, and we were able to play in front of crowds that were there to see like a whole array of bands, and they just went crazy for us. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I just love everyone that's like our fan base now, and all the people that come out to see us. They're just a really good crowd.
Yeah. And being as it's been getting close to a year since Downer, have you started working on a follow-up to it? And how's like the status with that, if you're allowed to say?
Yeah, it's coming along really well. We released a single called Good Morning. I'm not sure when that was. I want to say it was the 22nd of February.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've already started that cycle, and I'm really, really stoked with that track. Yeah, just working on stuff like I'm just writing lyrics every day, and Luca's like on the grind. but yeah, again, like our touring schedule's filling up. We leave for tour in less than 2 weeks, and then I mean, I can't say anything about our summer touring plans, but we have touring plans pretty much, until the end of the year. So it's all going to be about like fitting that in and making sure that we, keep that spark. But yeah, we've got like, I don't want to say instrumentally like a third of the album done, I'd say, like a full
Yeah.
length third of a full length. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like pressure at all to follow up down, or or is it just like now let's just do what we do?
No, I mean, obviously we feel the pressure a little bit, but we're also just like, listen, if the songs are ready, they're ready, and if they're not, they're not. We don't have like a label that's on our asses asking us like to deliver by a certain date and stuff like that. And we know that we just want to put out the best music possible. And yeah, just like down to part one, I mean, we're just writing songs and putting them out when they're ready, I suppose. So we just, yeah, we're really lucky to have like artistic freedom and the freedom to make the choices that we want to benefit the band, and everyone backs us on that. So that's really great.
Awesome. So thank you, Aaron, for this conversation. It's just great to be able to have 1056 on the show. It's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching us to close this out?
Yeah, well, first of all, Richard Thompson from Facebook, thank you for having me, man. It's been a
Anytime,
pleasure
Aaron Matz
talking.
from Facebook.
Yeah, well, if anyone's watching, thank you for taking your time to watch. I mean, it is pretty late at night, so sorry
Yeah.
if I'm a bit mumbly, but yeah, thank you for taking the time. If you haven't checked out the band properly, please listen to all our stuff. And if you see us coming to a city near you, please come out and say hello. We're really friendly dudes, and yeah, just happy
Awesome.
to share our music with everyone.
Hell yeah. So everybody, Aaron Matz from 1056. See you next time.